You're listening to the PRO Media Network. The next level in entertainment.
Are you a boxing fan? Check out Ring Kings Boxing only on the PRO Media Network.
What's up, boxing world? What's going on? You're now listening to Ring Kings Boxing, the top authority on boxing and fight news coming at you. And we got a very interesting show to talk about, man. We got a lot of great action. As usual, we're going to cover on podcast 364, Ring Kings Boxing World, man. Special contributor is on the line, and boxing aficionado Eddie Too Mean Johnson is joining me. What's going on, Too Mean?
What's good?
Well, you heard, man, Deontay Wilder, man, staking his claim in the heavyweight division. Of course, he holding the belt right now. And I said, like, he gonna lose it, right? But nah, not what he's showing, man. And it's hard to, a lot of people don't consider Deontay Wilder a complete fighter, but it's hard for the man to master his craft when you can't get enough boxers to stand before him, you know, and enough time for him to be able to practice some stuff on. And he just destroyed Dominic Breazeale. All the stuff he was talking, he literally took him apart. We, of course, at Ring Kings preview that, and he just straight up destroyed the man. Now, before we get into our analysis, let's play some of the interview after the post-fight with Deontay Wilder, what he had to say after the fight. Here's Deontay Wilder on it.
After a first-round knockout of Dominic Breazeale at the Barclays Center, let's hear what the champ has to say. You displayed, like you said, an amount of character. You may have had more animosity with this fighter than any other, but after the fight, it may have been the most sportsmanship that you've displayed. Why in that moment did you feel that way, and did you feel like you've matured or grew tonight?
You know, the older I get, like I said, age is beautiful. You know, the older I get, the more mature I become, you know. Like I said, I have 7 children. I'm a grown man. I don't have time to play games with people, and my heart is pure. You know what I mean? I am not what people see on YouTube or anything like that. You know, outside of the ring, I'm a loving person. And, you know, like I said, what we had dealing with boxing, I released that negative energy, you know, inside of the ring. Now my heart is empty. You know, I can come and love him. I can come and say, man, I wish you the best, and I want you to go back to your family. And that's growth in the sport. That's growth in me, and that just tells a lot of people my character about myself, you know.
Thank you, champ. That was a good look for you and a good look for boxing. We appreciate it. Radio Raheem with the
That's Deontay Wilder's post-fight comments about leaving all the negativity in the ring after dispatching Dominic Breazeale. I mean, how could you be mad at him? I mean, you just took him apart. You just eviscerated him. I mean, you pretty much destroyed him. Now, of course, like we said earlier, we previewed this fight the last podcast. We basically said that Dominic Breazeale, if it was going to be a fight, Dominic Breazeale would have to fight a way that he's not usually accustomed to fighting. You cannot stand toe-to-toe with Deontay Wilder and expect to trade with him like that. You know, you can't do it, and he did everything exactly wrong, and that's what got him KO'd. And I mean, in the worst fashion. I mean, the man just destroyed his ass in the ring. I mean, just took him apart. And the champ Deontay Wilder stands as one of the greatest punchers of all time. You got to put him up there, man. Not just because he just totally smashed Dominic Breazeale to hell. That's not because of that, but I mean, if you look at some of the other fights that, I mean, his record, 41 and 0-1 with 40 knockouts. And he's not basically, you know, he's smashing majority of his competition. Of course, people going to say he hasn't fought anywhere, but, I mean, you got to give a man credit. He's fighting whoever he's fighting, he's knocking them the hell out. Bottom line. Eddie, you've seen the fight, man, with little of it. You know, I'm really surprised people wasn't as pissed off as they usually were. Because if this was a Mike Tyson fight in his heyday, people would have been demanding their money back. that he just beat the guy's ass, destroyed him before the first round was over, and left 50-something seconds, 55 seconds, I think it was, at the 55-second mark when he just blasted them to hell and took them apart. Eddie, you watched this fight. What's your comments on what happened between Wilder and Breazeale?
Oh yeah, he had to put the icing on the cake. He scared the hell out of him during the weigh-in and the first press conference. Mm-hmm. The shit he was saying to him, psyching his, you know what I'm saying, putting it in his head, like he had him convinced that he was crazy as hell. The shit he was saying, he scared the shit out of Dominic Breazeale. And like you said, Dominic Breazeale, I think by him having so much fear, you know what I'm saying, he was like he was basically a standing target, man, punching back from this hit. Because he froze up because of the fear, man. You know what I'm saying? Plus, like, you know what I'm saying, heavyweight, all it takes is one punch on the chin, man. Any old trainers will tell you, any old throwback fighters will tell you, he said, if you get hit with a straight punch, you know what I'm saying, on the chin, he said, you either knocked out or you was a hurt motherfucker. Yeah.
Yes, it was interesting because what he does, he retained his title for the 9th consecutive time. Now, Wilder tied Muhammad Ali during his first title reign, Joe Frazier, Mike Tyson in his first reign, Lennox Lewis in his second reign, and on all time, he's on the all-time boxing list now. The all-time record for any division is 25 by Joe Louis. Other heavyweights who stood ahead of Wilder are Larry Holmes with 20 defenses. Klitschko had 18 in his second reign. Vitaly Klitschko had 11 in his second reign. Tommy Burns 11, and Ali had 10 in his second reign. Now the fight started with a bang where Wilder kind of, you know, I guess he drew that right hand early, and then he got another that sent Breazeale toward the ropes. Now Breazeale kind of took it, you know, to his credit, and then fired back a right that kind of hit Deontay across the top of his head and literally backed Deontay up. He backed up because he was on the onslaught. He was smashing him against the ring, and Breazeale was covering up. But then Breazeale started to retaliate. He hit him and got him off of him. He exchanged with him. But then Deontay said this. He said, quote, I saw him slow up a bit when I hit him with that right hand the first time. His body language changed. When you've been in the ring with so many guys, you recognize that body language. That's what he said when he first encountered him. Then Breazeale, later on, he mounted a sharp rally, which he also landed a couple of right hands, and only 2 punches he landed in 10 attempts, according to the CompuBox numbers, which knocked Wilder off balance, but Wilder was undeterred. He kept swinging in what was turned into a slugfest, which was interesting because I was like, this is the strategy. I'm thinking in my head, this is the strategy you're going to go with, Dominic, for real? You're going to try to exchange with Deontay Wilder in the ring? I mean, and it's one of those fights where both of them were emotionally charged, but somebody, the calmer fighter with a more strategic approach probably would have had a different, he probably would have still lost, but it would have been a little bit more carried out. He wouldn't have just got smashed or, you know, how when Wilder came in with that monstrous right and literally dropped him, and then he turned into a starfish in the ring. I mean, Wilder, now, according to what they're saying, the CompuBox number said that he connected with 35 shots for 26%, but there was only one that really counted, and that was the bell ringer. Now, he said, now this is what Dominic Breazeale said. I think the ref stopped it a little early because I could hear him saying 7-8, but that's boxing. You know, now he said he did his job and kept us safe for our next fight. I got on my feet and had my legs under me. It's the heavyweight division, so there's going to be big shots from guys with power. And he also said that this was a situation where he landed the big right hand before I did. I thought I was going to come in later rounds. I'll be back and go for the heavyweight title again. That's Dominic Breazeale's thoughts. And I hate to kind of, you know, crap on. I hate to crap on Dominic Breazeale's and tell a person that they can't do nothing. But it took him a while to work his way back up after he got knocked out by Joshua. It took him a while to work his way back around again to get a shot at Deontay Wilder, and a lot of people believe that he wouldn't have gotten this fight had the WBC carried out the fight between him and Dylan White. Remember, they called Breazeale and White to fight for the chance to go at Wilder if he had made the rematch. The rematch with Tyson Fury was successful. It wasn't. So ultimately, what happened was they broke the fight up between White and Breazeale and told Breazeale, "You are the mandatory challenger for Deontay Wilder," because Tyson Fury backed out of the fight. And Dylan White was, of course, upset by that. But if you pair Breazeale and White together, I'd say White beats him every time they fight. He's just a better fighter than Dominic Breazeale. But Dominic Breazeale has a long way to come back around to fight for a crown again. I mean, the two guys that's holding the belts, both of them beat him, and it's going to be a while before he's going to drop in rank a bit. You know, and it's just people going to remember that terrible. This is a polarizing knockout. You know, and it's. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Just stay away from that man. You won't. You know. But the next, let's talk moving ahead, Eddie, for Deontay Wilder before we move into our next group of fights. Now that he dispatched Dominic Breazeale in chalk line fashion, what's on the next? In your opinion, what's on the horizon next for Deontay Wilder? Is it another shot at Luis Ortiz, who he beat down and had spitting, or is it against Adam Kanaki, who's a very tough fighter but an unknown guy? In your opinion, who's the next challenger for the champ Deontay Wilder?
I think Ortiz probably be his next one. That's a bigger money fight than other than him fighting Joshua. You know what I'm saying? So I think Ortiz would be his next one. And shit, so it's hard to stay away from somebody that can, you know what I'm saying? Anytime they hit you with, you can just take one punch and hit you and knock your ass clean out. It's hard to fight people like that, man. You know what I'm saying? To stay focused for 12 rounds or to avoid that big-ass power punch. It's going to take some serious stamina, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's already, I think Eddie Hearn already put the news out on that fight. Matter of fact, he already drew that out, that the fact that Deontay Wilder's people already notified, and it was already an agreement between him to fight Luis King Kong Ortiz next, followed by Adam Kanaki later on in the year. So, you know, and possibly I think early in 2020 against Kanaki, and then probably toward the summer or later on in the year 2020, the super fight. But that might change, being that with this knockout, this polarizing knockout, people are starting to see, because unlike the previous months and years, when these guys, a lot of people just starting to realize who Wilder and Joshua are. These guys been holding these belts. Wilder's been holding his belt for some time. So has Anthony Joshua's been holding those belts for some time. And people just discovering who these guys are, and the fact that they finally bringing Anthony Joshua to America and getting him put on all of the shows so he can get familiar with, this guy who has belts. He's a British guy with 4 belts, and you got an American champ with 4 belts. Two of the top class heavyweights in the division that need to happen. I mean, you got Deontay, you got Hearn's fighter, AJ, which is a stellar fight in his own right. It needs to happen, in my opinion. I mean, with Deontay blasting Dominic Breazeale, the bloody blue blazes, he gonna do the same thing with Luis Ortiz. I already said this in the previous fight. That's why I don't like this fight. I like Luis Ortiz against AJ as opposed to Ruiz. I thought he should have took that fight as opposed to fighting Deontay Wilder again, because Deontay Wilder has the psychological advantage over you. He dispatched you. I mean, it was a good fight, don't get me wrong, but it's the psychological effect that you couldn't put him away when you had him, and he was helpless. And then when he finally put up some steam, he dispatched you and had you on the ground spitting when nobody else did that. And I use that analogy, had him spitting, because it was the last knockout that he had on Luis Ortiz, which Luis Ortiz had spit dripping out of his mouth. He had him drooling. He couldn't control his saliva. I mean, that's how bad he blasted Luis Ortiz while he was spitting. So I mean, my thing is stay away from that, man. I don't think that Luis Ortiz he might box a little differently, try to razzle dazzle his way. But the second he's already a defeated fighter in my books. I don't think he's gonna come in there to be entertaining. But Deontay Wilder's going to dispatch him as well. And this Adam Kanaki guy, who's a guy that has one style to keep coming to you, he's gonna get destroyed, just similar to like a Chris Areola did when he would try to pressure any fighter that tried to pressure Deontay Wilder is going to get destroyed like that. I mean, it's a way you have to be able to fight him because you pressuring him, you coming to him, and he's just going to blast you to death with that killer right. But for my money, I would love to see Anthony Joshua, hopefully, because the pressure's on Joshua to destroy Andy Ruiz coming up on June the 1st, to destroy him. And just like Deontay dispatched Breazeale, who it took several rounds for Anthony Joshua to do some years ago. And he beat him in the first. So this pressure is up, it's ratcheted up, and people want to see those two guys fight. We don't want to see Kanaki and Luis Ortiz again. We don't want to see Andy Ruiz Jr. No disrespect to Andy Ruiz Jr., but we don't want to see you there. Even though I think it'll be a better fight with him in there versus what it would have been Jarrell Miller, I think, because Ruiz actually can fight. He just looks terrible in a ring. I mean, he just looks terrible. I guess you could call him the Mexican version of George Foreman. That's what you can call him. That's pretty much what he is, holding up candy balls, talking about this little fat boy. I like Andy Ruiz Jr. I mean, I do. The guy could really fight. I mean, but he hadn't really fought anybody except for Joseph Parker. And in essence, if you go back and watch that fight, he really beat Joseph Parker in that fight. He beat Joseph Parker. If you go back and watch that fight, Andy Ruiz Jr. actually beat him in that fight. You got to give him credit. He actually beat him, but the decision went to Joseph Parker. That was his only loss. He has a really good record. I hate to make it about that Ruiz and Joshua, but Joshua and Ruiz, once that's over with, he has to turn to Deontay Wilder and say, listen, let's make it happen. Of course, I don't know if it's going to happen because Deontay wants a 50-50 split. And the question is, Eddie, before we move on, if you are A-side, he's considering himself A-side. They're both champs. So he's saying he's A-side. AJ's saying he's A-side. And they're saying, listen, the only way the fight's going to happen, and he said this in several interviews, is that we have a 50-50 split. I don't see how that's going to happen unless Eddie Hearn says, you know what, give him the 50-50 split so we can get the fight on. I don't know how that's going to happen. Maybe they get close. I'm not certain, but if I'm a champion of multiple boxing organizations like AJ is, and you're just holding one freaking belt, how do I give you a 50-50 split when I have 4 belts, you have 1? Or, you see what I'm saying? I don't know how that happens. So if that's the caveat, because that's what he says, is that it got to be a 50-50 split. I mean, what do you think about that?
If Wilder's, if he's able to create a larger gate, like a huge following, he could demand something like that, a 50-50 split. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't matter about who got the most belts then. But he don't really have that large following. Like I see that they working on that though. They're working on increasing his popularity and shit. They come up with that. They use that shit with like to this day. You know what I'm saying? They're using that. And they're creating a lot of memes and shit because of the way he knocked Breazeale out. So they trying to increase his popularity so he can be entitled to that 50-50 split. It might be why the damn fight's taking so long to happen, man.
They're trying to increase his popularity. Yeah, he's definitely gaining popularity. He's on ESPN more than I've ever seen him before. He's showing up and popping up on other major sport networks and getting interviewed, and he's popping up in the right area. So the media weapon machine is definitely carrying Deontay Wilder. He's becoming more and more mainstream. He's released his brand, and then the thing about it is that Deontay always wore stuff when he came out to fight. But these last 2 outfits that he worn coming out to fight with the weird masks and the crow feathers, I don't know what he's hitting on with these outfits. I don't know. It's kind of weird to me, and it's kind of weird. But, anyway, but he's definitely gaining popularity in the U.S. AJ is like drawing 100,000 people to come and fight in the arena. And when he fights in Madison Square Garden, they're going to have people that's going to travel to watch him fight. I mean, he's a world superstar, except for the United States, because he's never fought here. This is his first time fighting here, but he's supposed to have several fights in the States to gain his popularity here. And fighting Andy Ruiz Jr. won't get you no respect, but to be honest with you, he's where does AJ go but to Deontay Wilder? I mean, Luis Ortiz, he tried it. He had an opportunity to line up a fight with Ortiz. Ortiz wouldn't take it. He wanted to go and fight Wilder. They even approached Adam Kanaki, who's not even a top 5 fighter in the ranks. Kanaki rather decided to turn AJ down and get in line behind Luis Ortiz. Now tell me how that sounds. Tell me if that make any sense. You ready to fight one guy with one belt versus one guy that got 3 belts? It's like crazy to me. How do you turn down an opportunity to fight for the heavyweight champion to get in line to fight another guy who's already got a fight? I mean, to me, it's like, are they running from him? They make it all about money. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's about money. I think most of these guys don't know what the hell they're doing. They're getting bad advice. You don't turn down title fights, even if it's for the money you don't think you deserve. Get in there and beat the guy, take his belts, and move on. That's my thing. I ain't gonna get into a big spiel about it. Eddie, you want to add something to it before we go on to our next topic?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm like, it really don't make sense, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Some of the past, suppose he had beat AJ. You know what I'm saying? That would have been, you know what I'm saying? That's what they in it for, really, the belts and the money. Why not get the most money and the most belts? Well, that shit don't make sense, man.
Yeah, a lot of politics in boxing, man. But that's Deontay Wilder smashes Dominic Breazeale and moves on to his next opponent. Hopefully it'll be AJ and these guys can get together. Next fight, we're going to talk about, obviously, the fact that Gary Russell Jr. was on the undercard. Gary Russell Jr. was able to stop Kiko Martinez, who, I mean, that was a pretty good fight, though, Eddie. And Gary Russell, these are featherweights, by the way, y'all. Gary Russell is one of the toughest featherweights you'll ever meet, and he was able to do some nasty stuff to Kiko Martinez, who's been fighting a year. He won the belt back. And well, let's start like this. Russell has been fighting for just a year, every year, since he won the belt back in 2015. He made his 1-year appearance on the undercard versus Kiko Martinez, and he was for the junior he's battling a former junior featherweight titleist Kiko Martinez, who, man, he was dealing with a nasty gash over his eye, and it was a stoppage done in the 5th round in the Barclays Center. They gave it to Gary Russell Jr. Now, Gary Russell Jr. fought a good fight. Martinez wasn't a bum in there, but it just wasn't his night. Now, he took care of business, man, and of course he retained his 126-pound belt for the 4th time. It was the 3rd year in a row that Russell said that he is content fighting just once a year, and he came out of they said he came out of hiding in May and looked like he hadn't missed a beat. Now, this guy is good, man. Now, according to CompuBox punching numbers, says Russell out of 100 through 100 of 366 punches for 27%, 28 of 184 for 15% with the jabs, and power punches is 72 out of 182 for 40% landing on his power punches. Martinez landed 40 of 184 total, 22% on his punches. Jabs 3 out of 37, could not connect, couldn't hit him with a jab. Power punches 37 of 147 for 25%. Low connect percentages on everything for Martinez, couldn't get it to going. Russell 30-1 with 18 knockouts. He's 30 years old, southpaw from Maryland, and he never let up on Martinez. He dispatched him, and Martinez is now 39-9-2 with 28 knockouts, and he just couldn't have any answer for Russell. And when the fight was over, Russell said, "I did pretty well. We stayed behind the jab, and he couldn't get past it. We knew that intellect over athleticism would get it done." And he also said that we want Leo Santa Cruz. We want this fight to happen as soon as possible. The fire is all the way hot on the side of the field. You will get burned. I would love for that fight to happen this year. Let's make it happen. Quote and quote from Gary Russell Jr., whose only loss came by decision to Vasily Lomachenko back in 2014 for the featherweight belt. He said he wants to finally make the fight so many have asked for a title unification bout with Leo Santa Cruz, who's 36-1 and won with 19 knockouts. Now, he said that before, however, then went another year without fighting, only to come back against an ordinary opponent. So he also said that he could not get the fight. He would consider moving up to junior lightweight to fight title holder Tank Davis, who's 21 and over 20 knockouts, which would be a regional rival fight between Russell, who's representing Washington, D.C., and Davis is from Baltimore. Now, that would be an interesting fight if he can't get Santa Cruz. Now, this is what Martinez said. Kiko said after losing the fight. He said it was a good stoppage for a very tough fight. I'm definitely a visual fighter, so the cut made it tough. Gary was great physical condition, and he had a very hard fight. It was a very hard fight. I'm going to rest a little bit now, but I'll be back. I thought I had some good moments. I think I'll drop back down to 122 pounds to win another world title there. So that's what Kiko Martinez said in Russell's comments. Eddie, you heard it and watched the fight. What you thought about Gary Russell and his fight with Martinez for the featherweight belt?
Oh, man, that was Gary Russell Jr. I like him, you know what I'm saying, personally, because he represents African culture, you know what I'm saying, our ancient cultures and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know what I'm saying, and then plus he kicks ass, man. He's high IQ in the ring. Got, you know what I'm saying, that speed, man. He's like the fastest hands in boxing, you know what I'm saying. He's a full package. He got all the special effects. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely a force to be reckoned with. And a lot of them guys, that's why he fights once a year, because a lot of them guys don't want to fight him, man. Mm-hmm. Because they already know, you know what I'm saying, what's going to happen to them. They're going to get their ass beat. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of dudes are avoiding him. And Cruz, listen to Santa Cruz?
Yes.
Yeah, he fought him in the amateurs and got his ass whooped real bad by Gary Russell Jr. And that was with fucking bigger gloves on and the headgear. Just imagine what he'll do to him with the smaller gloves and no headgear. So that's why they're avoiding that fight. So I think Gary Russell, he'll probably move up and challenge for the WBC belt at the lightweight. You know what I'm saying? If he give up his belt at the featherweight. You know what I'm saying? Because they both in the same under the same boxing WBC organization.
Right.
So if he move up, he can definitely get that shot. If he was to give his belt up and challenge for that, he'll definitely get that shot. He win that, and then he can, you know what I'm saying, then start challenging the other lightweights. Yeah, but yeah, I like Gary Russell Jr., man. Great fighter, man.
Well, that's the message on Gary Russell. He's looking at eventually either, getting the Santa Cruz fight or moving up to take on Tank Davis. Either one of those is a really good fight. I particularly like Tank Davis fight, to be honest with you. I like Tank Davis. I like Shakur Stevens. I think those guys are the future of that class, man. So we're going to see and be patient to watch. And hopefully Gary Russell Jr. can fight twice in 1 year, man, and not let so much time get past him. Moving into our next discussion, of course, we're going to preview now the Thurman. Manny Pacquiao has chosen his opponent. Now, we talked about this on the previous podcast. Now, Pacquiao and Thurman, they will fight on July the 20th, and it's going to be at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. It's going to be on Fox pay-per-view as Thurman and Pacquiao. July the 20th is on like popcorn. The fight between the welter Thurman and legend Manny Pacquiao, who holds a secondary belt, matches fighters with a 10-year gap in their edges. But the age ain't nothing but a number to Manny Pacquiao as he moves forward. Now, this is a tough fight for Keith Thurman because Thurman's coming off that 22-month layoff where he had that shoulder surgery. He fought up against Josito Lopez, and Josito Lopez pressed him, and Thurman didn't have any power in his punches. You know, he was, and I just wasn't. He fought a good fight in stretches. Don't get me wrong, but Lopez was pressing him, wasn't scared of whatever he was throwing at him, and it just kind of. I know Pacquiao is going to take a look at that tape, man, and see what he can do. But Thurman's game is his speed. He can move around in the ring. He can throw combinations, and he's a swift fighter. But the issue with Thurman is his soft to the bodiness. You know, he's known to be prone to body shots, and Pacquiao knows this. He's training with a fighter that has speed like a Thurman to get ready for it. And a lot of smack talking, Eddie, that's going on between these two fighters. Thurman's 30 and Pacquiao is 40, and a lot of smack talking. Now, this is what Thurman said. He said, quote, "I'm going to make a big statement. You're not going to want to miss this fight, especially because it's about this. It's this man's last fight." He says, Thurman said it's just a few feet away from Pacquiao when they met at the news conference in New York. And, you know, if he says, "I've always wanted to fight some of the greatest names in the sport of boxing. Years ago, I wanted Floyd Mayweather. I wanted Manny Pacquiao. Floyd's gone. Pacquiao's here. He wants to challenge, and I'm very grateful. I'm very happy to be sharing the ring with a legend like Manny Pacquiao. But for those who know boxing and truly understand boxing history, times change. I believe this has come to a new era. Floyd is gone. Pacquiao's here. Come July the 20th, he will disappear. He's a legend. He will always be remembered. But I'm going to do to Manny Pacquiao what he did to Oscar De La Hoya. And Oscar De La Hoya never fought again. Facts." End quote. That's a mouthful from Keith Thurman, man. You know, Keith Thurman. That's a lot to say by him saying he's going to retire. He's going to retire. Basically saying that he's going to retire Pacquiao, Eddie. And that's really interesting. Now, Pacquiao, man, is 61-7-2 with 39 knockouts, and man, I just think that a lot of this stuff that Keith was saying, he has some other quotes that I wanted to read out to you. He said that indeed, this most likely will be Manny Pacquiao's last fight. I love the sport of boxing, but we're in a new generation. Look at the heavyweights. There's no more Klitschko's. The Klitschko's are gone. In the welterweight division, the king was Floyd. He's gone. The legend Pacquiao's here. He will be here July 20th, but come 21st, he's gone. He said, "You think I'm playing, but this ain't no game." That's what he said. And he also said, "I've been boxing for 2 decades, and I'm never scared or intimidated. I'm so excited for this fight because I'm fighting with somebody who's undefeated," Pacquiao said. This is from Pacquiao. He said, "Thurman is the kind of fighter who can't underestimate." He said, "You can't underestimate. He's undefeated, and he gives me more encouragement and motivation to work hard like what I did before my biggest fights against the biggest names in boxing. I will not predict this fight, but I will make sure I am 100% conditioned and ready for the fight. Let's see who's tougher in the ring on July the 20th. This is going to be exciting. I chose Keith Thurman because he's undefeated. I want to prove that at the age of 40, I can still beat undefeated fighters." So, Eddie, you heard what I just read from both fighters. Pacquiao, like we talked in the previous fight when I brought up the topic, and I said it'd be an easier fight for Manny Pacquiao to make with Sean Porter than to go with Keith Thurman, because Sean Porter is not a running fighter. He's going to come to you and try to outbusy you in the ring. That's tailor-made for Pacquiao to beat a guy like that who has, and of course Porter has a belt. Pacquiao could take his belt, and they'll have 2 belts in that class. But he chose an interesting opponent in Keith Thurman, and last time I checked, Pacquiao's a real strategic and smart fighter. So he won't fight a guy, he select a guy who he thinks he'll lose to. It's something in Keith Thurman's boxing style that Pacquiao feels like he can defeat. What are you thinking, your thoughts on this fight? Who wins this fight and why? Tell me about it.
Yeah, I think Pacquiao's will is a lot stronger than Keith Thurman's. It's, you know what I'm saying, definitely, you know, Pacquiao's seen every style in the fucking ring you can think of, man. So it's gonna be, I think Pacquiao gonna win that by a close decision win. You know what I'm saying? Because like I say, his skill level is this. You know what I'm saying? He never. You know what I'm saying? He been up against many styles, man. So and Keith Thurman, man. You know what I'm saying? He can't really take body shots like that neither. And I don't think he can handle the speed of Pacquiao. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? Pacquiao is good with that lateral movement and working on angles coming from different angles, punching and stuff like that. I don't know if Keith Thurman is gonna be able to take that, man. You know what I'm saying? He talking a lot of shit, but you know what I'm saying? There's very few fighters can talk that much shit and back it up, man. So we'll see. I got Pacquiao winning by a close decision, man.
Yeah, he did mention, you know, all of the crap talking that Thurman was talking to Manny Pacquiao. He should know he can't talk a guy experiences Pacquiao out of his game. And I think it might be just to, to kind of talk himself up. Maybe he's talking to himself to gain confidence again. I'm not saying that Keith Thurman never was not an unconfident fighter. He's a very smart fighter. Use speed and combination punching, very complete fighter. And a lot of people don't know exactly who Thurman is, but 29-0 with 22 knockouts, man. That shows you all you need to know about Thurman. He's a belt, holding the belt, and he's in the prime of his career. And I think having a fight like this, a C-man fight against a good fighter like Thurman, against Manny Pacquiao, would gauge him in the welters. And I remember our comments, if you go back and listen to Ring Kings Boxing, we always talk about some of our favorite boxers, but there are certain weight classes that really draw interest. You're looking at the welterweights, you're looking at the middleweights, you're looking at the heavyweights, you're looking at guys like that. And in the welterweights, we always talked about the fact that the welters, it's been a while since you had a guy like Mayweather who had all the belts in the welterweight division. So now it's most of the guys, they have the belts and they're not fighting each other. And that's a shame because, unification should be the ideology in every class. The guys should want to have, it should be a unified king of every weight class, and each guy has a belt. And usually when that happens, they need those guys seek out each other for belt, and champions fight champions. That's not what some of these guys doing. Sean Porter didn't do it the last time. In my opinion, he lost the last fight that he had. If you go back and watch it, he shouldn't have won that fight. But, I think he's a belt holder, holding the belt for one of the better fighters in the Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. And ultimately, this will be a big test for Manny Pacquiao, too. Don't think this is going to be a cakewalk. Pacquiao's fighting Thurman, and Thurman is 10 years younger than he is. He's a very experienced fighter in the ring. He can knock your ass out. Like I just read you his record, 29-0 with 22 knockouts now. Don't get it twisted. He got speed, and he can knock your ass out. So, but this is a statement when he's fought some really good fighters, too. He's fought guys like Porter. He's fought guys like Swift, Garcia. He's fought some good fighters, man. Just hadn't fought Crawford, who just moved into the class, and he had fought Errol Spence, but those two jarred each other. And things were supposed to happen. They had a series of injuries, and that's the thing to knock on Keith Thurman, is that he did have some injuries. He had the shoulder injury that laid him off almost 2 years, and then he came back against Josito Lopez, and Lopez actually gave him some trouble in that fight. But like I said, that's what it's going to come down to in the fight, the speed and power of a guy like Thurman, who has the ring experience, who has the strength, who has the speed and the combination, the intelligence to close the book on the Manny Pacquiao. He does. He does have everything. He's a complete fighter at the top of his game right now. And like we said, remember the fights we go back, you span back, and those words kind of what Thurman was saying about retiring fighters in the next generation. Remember when Sugar Ray Leonard, his first fight, he took on terrible Terry Norris. And I remember watching that fight, and I said Sugar Ray is going to dispatch this guy, even though terrible Terry Norris was a hell of a fighter. But I just had confidence that Sugar Ray Leonard would beat him. Guess what happened? Terrible Terry Norris took Sugar Ray Leonard. He beat him pretty handily. He beat him up in that fight. You remember that fight, Eddie?
Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes you know what I'm saying, you can get in the ring and then that shit just don't be there, man. You know what I'm saying? The age will really catch up with you, and then that's when it's too late. You get seriously hurt. But some, you know what I'm saying, they think they got it until, you know what I'm saying, they get to in the ring with somebody to make them think how old they really are, man. You know what I'm saying? So that could happen to Pacquiao too. You know what I'm saying? The right person to expose his age. You know what I'm saying? He got the people that he is in the ring with at the age of 40 wasn't able to do that. But some people can't do that, man. You get in the ring, you be like, damn. You know, he be like, I'm too old for this shit. It's time to get out of this shit now.
This is what Thurman said. More comments from him. He said, quote, I'm excited to be the guy who shows him the exit on this left. At the end of the day, 2 years ago, yesterday, today, Manny Pacquiao is a legend. He's done great things. I've never lost a fighter who's lost 7 times. I have no intentions of losing to Pacquiao. I don't see him winning in any way, shape, or form. He's 40. I'm 30. I want to show him that this ain't Adrian Broner. My AB is about business. I throw these hands. I'm going to let them go. He said, I walked out of that ring and said, I feel good. I can fight more. I know you can because you didn't get in your face. He wasn't in a real fight. Come July the 20th, we're going to see how much Manny Pacquiao is willing to give to the sport of boxing. I believe he's given all that he has, but we'll find out soon. I respect Pacquiao. I know he comes in shape, but he's just going to fall short of the finish line. And, of course, this is what Pacquiao said in response. Trash talk doesn't mean nothing. But when he's on the mat catching that on that 20th, he's really going to mean something. On the 21st, I guarantee he's not going to want to see a rematch, even though he's in the contract. I don't think this boy is going to want to see it after I finish him off. That's what Thurman said Now, what Pacquiao's comment rebuttal to that was, Keith Thurman doesn't scare me. He inspires me. My story is 40 years in the making. My time is not over. Yet over. My journey will continue. I'm not ready to look back. I'm still looking forward. End quote by the great Manny Pacquiao. No crap talking back Thurman, who's promising to retire him, take his belts, and he made an interesting comment. He said he's never lost to a fighter that has lost 7 fights in his career. So, man, it's a lot going on there, man. But my call on it, July the 20th in Las Vegas, MGM, Thurman and Pacquiao. That's going to be an interesting fight. And usually when you look at a fight like that, you say, well, who got the ring experience? Obviously, it's Pacquiao. But it's an intriguing mix that Thurman is. Speed, power, intelligence. He's healthy, and he needs a statement victory to complete to kind of add to his resume. And I think he believes what he's saying, and we'll see if he can challenge Pacquiao. But I have to take Pacquiao on this one, man. I got to go with Pacquiao. But anyway, that's going to do it for Ring Kings Boxing. If you like this show, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button for more content to know when we're going live here on Ring Kings Boxing. Join our YouTube page, sign up and listen to the show on Spreaker as well when we go live. And from me and to me and the Ring King crew, thank you for joining us. Peace.
Peace.
Are you a boxing fan? Check out Ring Kings Boxing only on the PRO Media Network.
Thank you for listening to the Pro Media Network, who provides hours and hours of free edutainment to you and yours. If you are benefiting positively from our content, please donate to help us grow our platform by going to www.patreon.com/the Media Network. That's www.patreon.com/the Media Network. And support the true independent artists.